Now let's nest all the loops together. So a loop statement can use any other type of command or loop within the loop, including the loop commands. So this is called a nested loop. Care should be taken when using nested loops, because you're performing an iteration within an iteration, so which multiplies the number of times commands are being run. If you don't pay close attention to this, it can cause problems in your script. So let's take an example, a nested loop. Here in this loop, a for loop inside another for loop. That's the example is displayed on your screen. So first one is for loop, and after that do, and inside that echo, and inside that there is one more for loop, and then and again one more do, and closing done for the first for loop. So let's do an example exercise, then after that we'll go to the next examples. Let me clear the screen first. So vim 80 nesting, and then as usual insert mode bin bash, and now testing and nesting for loop. First outer for loop or main for loop, then after that if you see this is a nested for loop. So nested for loop, total we have two for loops. Okay, let's execute this and see how does this work. So chmod o plus x 80 nesting. Yes, that's it. So starting loop 1, this is inside loop 1 2 3, again starting loop 2. So this is the main for loop, and this is the nested for loop. Main for loop, nested for loop, main for loop, nested for loop. So basically the nested for loop has been reiterated 3 times. That's how a nested loops works. Here a nested for loop for a for loop. The nested loop also called the inner loop. So simply we can say the outer loop as well as outer loop and inner loop. So here we call it the nested loop as a inner loop. Inner loop iterates through its values for each iteration of the outer loop. That's what happened with our example also. Notice that there is no difference between do and done commands for the two loops, whether it may be outer loop or inner loop. And the bash shell knows when the first done command is executed that it refers to the inner loop and not the outer loop. The same applies when you mix loop commands, such as placing a for loop inside a while loop. Now let's take an example of uh, a for loop as an inner loop and a while loop as an outer loop. Okay, so you can see the example that's exactly in front of your eyes on your screen. So var one is our variable, and then while loop is our outer loop with a condition that's a var one greater than or equals to 0. If that's the case, do done echo outer loop variable one. Now for the first iteration, I think it's we will have a 5 iterations. Okay, yes, we'll have a 5 iterations, and for 5 iteration the for loop is going to be executed how many times, that we will see. So for loop, I think same we have given. So for loop will be executed 5 times, and for loop iterations will be taken place each and every iteration of while loop. So this is the example that we have considered, and let's done it. Okay, so now let's take an example for the same. Let's run an exercise on the same. So let me clear the screen first, and then vim, this time it's 8 1 nesting.sh. Yes, this is our example. While outer loop and for inner loop, the same logic that we have discussed in our slide, the same one is been running here. The same logic, placing a for loop inside a while loop. So this is our while loop, but the thing is f, I have to remove this f. Yeah, now it's a where one. So where one, and then outer loop where one. So here we use where two. Yes, rest all remains same. Let's execute. Let's give permissions to the shell to execute it. So o plus x, and then 8 f underscore 1 nesting done. Now 8 underscore 1 nesting dot sh. That's it. It's huge data. Of course, there is a lot of stuff in it. That's the reason. Okay. So outer loop is 5. First it started with the outer loop 5, then inner loop, again, inner loop. So that's how there is a lot of stuff. Okay, readme website, lot of stuff is there in it. That's how it works. Let me clear the screen. For and while loop, because we have used a for loop inside a while loop. So then again, the shell distinguished between the two and done commands of inner for loop from the same commands in the outer while loop. If you really want to test your brain, you can even combine until and while loops. You can do the permutation and combinations of these for, while, until, all the loops together, and you can play around. So the another example that we have considered is until, and then the inner loop is while, until while. The same example, directly let us run that, and we'll see what's going to happen. Okay, I'm sorry. Yep, here it is. So vim 8.2 nesting.sh. Yep, it's here it is. Outside it's until, and then inside we have a while loop. And let's run it and see. There is a calculation, integer calculations also using pipeline, and then BC, that's a bash calculator. And let's see what is the result that we are going to get, and how many. I think 3 iterations of outer loop, and inside we'll see how many iterations we can get. I think it's 4. Let's see. Before that, we'll give permissions. 8 2. Oh, I think something is wrong with the inner loop. That's fine. In inner loop, some command scale 4. Okay, that's the issue. Some command not 4. That's fine. That's fine. The calculation is missing. That's okay. But the logic, by this moment, you would have gotten the logic. So that is our main motto.